Hi everyone, my name is Dennis Lorden and welcome to the latest episode of the Mental Brew podcast, Conversations on High Performance. And today we have GA Royalty chatting to me today, which is fantastic. We have Cora Staunton. Cora, thanks for coming on.
No bother at all, Dennis. Thanks for having me.
No bother. I'm really looking forward to this chat now. I suppose just starting off, I say this in every podcast, but I suppose, why do you do what you do? And you can tie that to sport, or you can tie that to, I suppose, what you do in your everyday life, essentially.
Yeah, I suppose it's down to passion. Obviously when I was playing sport for as long as I did, whether it was Gaelic football, soccer, rugby, GA, AFL, whatever it might be, I suppose I was just very passionate about it. I loved doing what I did. I never felt it was a chore or you were making any major sacrifice. So yeah, I just probably loved the element of competing and trying to get the best out of myself every day. I went out training or out playing, and I just loved the challenge of trying to get better every day, no matter what the sport was. So, and it's the same in my line of work now as well. Whatever, I've kind of a mixture of line of work, whether it's punditry, coaching, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
The coaching side in particular, I love now try making players better and try and helping them get the best out of themselves. So yeah, it's probably just I'm passionate about anything I do really.
That's brilliant. And I suppose, look, we start off with the coaching. So as we do my research, you're with their coach of Ballina football males team above in Mayo, if that's correct. And I suppose
Yes.
just with the coaching, how do you find it compared to playing? Obviously, you played at the very highest level in terms of ladies Gaelic football, won massive amount of honours. How do you find, I suppose, dealing then with a club player, a very talented club player, an average club player? How do you find then, I suppose, your experience with a high performance and massive amounts of talent, as well dealing with varying degrees of, I suppose, players in front of you?
Yeah, I suppose when I was lucky enough last year, I had a brief, I had a stint with the Galway Camogie senior team, obviously being women, but being involved in that high performance environment, I was kind of high performance coach with them there. And then also, I suppose, right throughout my career, I've kind of been involved in coaching while I was playing as well. Whether that was I was involved with a couple of school teams here in Mayo, girls teams, and involved with Mayo underage teams as well throughout my career. So, and in my own club, I've been involved in coaching since I was probably 16 or 17, to be honest. So, and then I suppose the biggest thing is when I went to Australia, while I wasn't involved directly in coaching, I ended up taking on a kind of a huge mentoring role within the club. I suppose our coach over there pushed me into kind of looking after younger players who were coming from all sides of Australia and who were very young and probably needed some guidance. So, and I suppose, while he took me over there from a playing point of view, his main role he took me over there initially was kind of to guide the team in terms of, professionalism and culture and stuff, which is really strange when you're going over to a professional environment coming from an amateur sport. So I suppose that all mixed in together, I wouldn't have, found coaching, too much of a different step. It's obviously different to playing, but dealing with players, I suppose, you've kind of been doing that throughout your career. Dealing with your club player or your club player that's on the county team, or the different varying types of players, whether they're young lads that are maybe just coming in as a development role or whatever. You're just dealing with all different types of level, but you're dealing with players that want to be there, they're driven. I'm lucky enough with Ballina, they won the county final last year, so they're striving, to be the best again in Mayo and beyond. So you're working with a very driven team, and they're very self-motivated. So you're basically just there to help them get the best out of themselves, and try to give them little nuggets of information that'll make them better players. And I suppose then from a tactical point of view, trying to set up tactically that'll make the team perform better than they did last year. So yeah, it's not very much different to playing. I suppose my career has been quite long, and I suppose I've learned a lot in my time, whether it was in AFL or Gaelic football or rugby or soccer. I think the wide mix of the different environments has helped me.
And obviously now you've dealt with pressure yourself as an athlete, come up to All-Ireland finals, national leagues, big games, where in that instance, you're kind of counting on your own ability and talent, and obviously maybe your own relationships with your players to kind of get you through the performance or get the team through the performance. How do you, or I suppose, do you envisage there be pressure maybe as a coach where you're depending now on maybe 30 or 40 other people, where you've got your players, you maybe your backroom staff, whatever it may be, to kind of get the perfect performance on the pitch to get the results to kind of take away the pressure, or is that something you'd even take notice of?
No, I don't think I take notice of. Even when I was playing, like I suppose maybe early days pressure was the thing that you maybe feel under. But I suppose that as I grew and once, like anything else, once I felt fully prepared and I knew what I was doing from a playing point of view, once I felt fully prepared that I'd trained to the best and I'd done everything I can and I left no stone unturned, which I normally did,
Mm.
then I felt comfortable going into the game. I didn't really feel pressure. And I think it's the same from a coaching point of view. Once that you feel as a coaching team, have your team the best you can, prepare them and in the best physical and mental shape that they can be in, after that, that's all you can do. You can't control, the uncontrollables, as they say.
Yeah.
What happens, on match day, obviously you can control the way that the tactics of an opposition might play and how you set up. But majority of the stuff that you do as a coach is done well before match day.
Mm.
It's the hours and hours before that, and on match day, then you're just hoping that you've empowered the players to make the right decisions. When that pressure moment might come on. And I think again, to me, again, I go back to my career. It was just that once I had done that repetition over and over again, it's like taking a free or taking a set shot in AFL. The more times you practice it, the more comfortable you felt in the environment. So I think that's what I try to do in coaching, that that you're never going to make a player go out there and feel like they don't know what they're going to do, because you should have it done over and over and over with them. And when the big moment comes, it just feels like a normal day or a normal moment to them. So I was never one, as I said, pressure wasn't a major thing. I suppose it's talked about more, probably from the outside the bubble of a team, rather than,
Mm.
I don't think you think to yourself in an All-Ireland final, oh, I better nail this free, or, there's huge pressure on me. You're just
Yeah.
doing what you've done since you were 12 or 13 or even smaller.
Brilliant. There was a couple of things you said there, and one word that really kind of popped out to me was empower. So how would you empower your players? Or what do you do to empower your
Uh,
players?
Yeah, well, you just as I said, you take trainings, and your trainings are very much that you give them tasks to do, but they're the ones that complete the task. So it's not that you're telling them every minute, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. As I said, I give them little nuggets of information, or depending on what we're working on. Say, for example, we're working on, that third man run and trying to get off a shot from that third man runner. You give them the tools, and we repeat it and we repeat it over and over. And then we put them in situations, at training. Most of our training is based on small sided games, whether that's 7-a-side, 9-a-side, 11-a-side, whatever it might be, and eventually to 15-a-side. But you put them in the situation as often as you can. And as I said, then when the actual, you rehearse everything, and when the actual, the main thing comes, that they're ready for it. So it's just putting them in the situation as often as they can in a training capacity, and they just feel comfortable. It just becomes normal. So as I said, it won't be me making decisions on the field, whether you should shoot or not, or this is the right angle or not. It's them. But the more often they do it, the more comfortable they're doing it. And I don't think we give club footballers or intercounty footballers or whatever, Gaelic footballers in general, we don't give them enough credit. They're highly intelligent people that know the game quite well. So, 9 out of 10 times they make the right decision, and that's all you can ask as a coach. And if they make the right decision and the outcome, if we say, for example, the right decision was take a shot, but they just didn't execute the skill right, well, at least we know they've taken the right decision, and then it's just to work on that skill that they might need to refine it, I suppose. So it's all about them. It's all about the players, and I suppose a coach is there just to guide the players in trying to make the right decision.
That's brilliant. Like I would be involved, or say it's kind of paused in that side of my career now, but I would have been involved in development squads in Cork and other not senior teams in Cork County now, but maybe minors and 20s and stuff, and club teams and whatnot. And the way you're talking is fantastic. I've been in dressing rooms where the coach, it's all I, and even up to recently in different sport, you'll be looking at it and you'd be kind of put my head down and kind of cringing a bit where, the coach say, you're kind of putting it on them, which is fantastic. we'll say in terms of a positive influence, or can you pick maybe one coach that has really influenced your career? Obviously, you've had like an unbelievable career in terms of longevity and success. So there's probably a lot of people that influenced it, but is there any one in particular that you kind of?
Yeah, yeah, I probably have to put it to two, and there were very two different stages of my career, and from the point of view of coaching as well. I had one that I had that was involved with Mayo, kind of from the age of maybe 16 and a half, 17 to probably about 22, and definitely my not my love for the game, but my love for knowing everything about the game. So I'm the type of player when I played that I needed to know what everyone else was doing on the pitch. Never mind what I was doing. I needed to know how we were setting up and why we were setting up like this. So I was one of them trainers that used to have to know everything and ask loads of questions. And it wasn't just about what I was doing. So, and that came from him. He always like sat down and or spoke on the phone and just told me exactly why we were doing it, what we were doing, why we were doing it, and what outcome we were going to get from it. Now we huge success with that coach, but also like, and as I said, I've played sport for years. That period of time, I've never in any code trained as hard as I did in that kind of 5-6 year period. That's where really I made myself as an athlete, where I just training was so hard, and since then my body was conditioned no matter what sport I went into because of that basis of 5 or 6 years of training. So yeah, his love for the game and the detail in it and how he coached players, he was way ahead of his time, because this was back now in the early 2000s, and he was way ahead of his game and professionalism, everything, and how he coached us and how fit we were, and how the level of detail he went into back then. And then towards the end of my career, the coach I had, the guy I had in Australia, he showed me a completely different side of it. And obviously that was again from a skills point of view, how you teach someone that knows nothing about a game, who's at the end of their career, how you teach them the skills of the game, and how that type of really intricate coaching, but also how he taught me about the importance of the player and actually having relationships with players, and that the best, how you get the best out of a player isn't just on field. It's about knowing everything about them off field, and make sure that they're so happy in their lives off field, that's how you're going to get the best out of players on field. And he really showed me the relationship side of players and stuff, and the importance of it. Now both of them had massive passion for the game and still do, and I still talk to them both. But he really showed me, because again, I was coming from the other side of the world. He was spending so much time teaching me the game, but also caring about everything else. It wasn't just about me as the footballer or the AFL player. It was about me as the person as well, and how I excelled in the sport, because he really invested in me as a person rather than just me as the player, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I would have seen some interviews he would have done while you're over there and Breed Stack was over there. So we'd obviously see interviews when he was chatting with yourselves. The person-centered approach, I wouldn't say it's unique, right? What I mean by that is you see more and more coaches now taking an interest in the person, whereas before, you would have seen it where there may be a commodity and it was all about the coach's success, maybe. That's very generalized statement, to be fair. But how important now, or how important for you in your career has building those personal relationships been, like, for you to achieve your success in whatever sport you put your hand to? How important were those kind of building those personal relationships, and maybe even on reflection?
Yeah, and I suppose the majority of the time it is on reflection, bar I suppose the later parts of your career, because I think you tend to reflect more when you're a bit older, a bit more mature, and when you're that kind of younger age, and I don't know, you nearly just think this is, you're invincible and it'll keep happening and happening. I think it's massive. And again, that the coach I was talking that had at a very early stage in my career, I didn't realize that was kind of like the person-centered approach that he was doing at the time. I just thought he was just, a psychopath really. And he spent hours on the phone talking, and that, I just thought he was genuine he was.
Yeah.
But like, I was at a stage in my life where I just had lost my mother, and he took over as our manager, and the amount of time he invested in me. And I didn't realize this, in getting to know me. And, I was just lucky. He was living in Athlone at the time. I was in college in Athlone. He was basically like a father figure.
Yeah.
To me, and in particular, there was another girl that was playing that was in college with me as well, to the two of us. And um, I just think when you have that, you can have really honest and hard conversations with someone because you trust and you respect them.
Yeah.
And I think it's hugely important. I only really seen that then, even though I had seen it when I was young and I didn't know what it was. But when I went to Australia, like that's when I really realized this area is like this person-centered approach was so valuable. And again, my 6 years in Australia wouldn't have been anywhere half as successful only for him.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, but you have to put in all the hard work and all that. But if you don't feel comfortable within an environment and
Absolutely.
don't feel that you're wanted, well, then you're not going to produce or perform. And yeah, I just think the way he went about it as well, my coach in Australia, was just so like, it was just little subtle things along the way that, I probably didn't even know. And as I said, he spent a huge time getting me to mentor others, trying to fit into the environment over there. And it just made me so comfortable. Like, and I just felt, and you have these coaches, and I didn't have too many of them in my career, but these two guys were certainly ones that I always felt that if I didn't perform, and if we didn't perform as a team, me personally and as a team, then I was letting them down. And I think when you can have that relationship with a coach, that you're nearly more gutted that you're letting them down because as a team we didn't perform.
And like that's brilliant. And I my two questions now, right? They're kind of linked, right? Would it be fair to say that you lived the dream in terms of the GA dream now with Mayo, right? Maybe growing up, maybe there was a dream to play with Mayo. You've obviously done that, been incredibly successful. But I suppose what brought you in to the love of sport, firstly, before to maybe to foster that dream or create that dream, is probably my
Yeah,
next question.
yeah, I suppose I come from a small like area, so I it definitely came from primary school. I always remember I loved primary school. Like primary school was just, for me, was like every day I go in and I just played as much sport
Brilliant.
as I wanted. And it was all types of sports. It was Gaelic football, soccer, basketball, badminton, handball. We had a handball alley, racquetball, rounders, indoor soccer. We had a community centre right beside the school. It definitely came from there. It came from my principal, because he obviously identified, while there was no other girls in the school playing, that I was good.
Yeah,
And he just fostered that and nurtured it and kept encouraging me, and and keeping me involved. And I just absolutely loved it. And then I kind of, from the GA point of view, I joined the boys team then as a 7-year-old, and that was my life. And I just loved watching sport on television, no matter what was on. Like, my dream wasn't to play for Mayo. I thought I was going to play for Manchester United. When I was a 10-year-old,
yeah,
I thought I was going to be Roy Keane and I was going to play for Manchester United,
yeah,
because I followed them all the time. That was what I was watching.
yeah.
Man United, match the day all the time. That's all I lived for. So I think it came from that. Like, I think it came from primary school in particular. I remember primary school being like, just every day I went in, it was all about sport and just what could I do next and what could we play next. And he, in fairness to him, had us playing every type of sport that we could try and play. And as I said, it was a small rural primary school, and I was the only girl that ever played sport when I was in the school.
That's brilliant, isn't it? When I suppose a teacher sees that in a student. Teaching would be my original career, and you'd see kids there who have that natural talent. You obviously try and push them towards it, which is fantastic. In terms of then, I suppose the experience of playing with Mayo. For me, like, I was never any good. I would have loved to have played with Cork. Never, never, ever was going to happen. So my next dream then would have been to get involved in coaching capacity with Cork. Got there to a certain extent, which was great, an achievement in itself. But like, I suppose, when did you realize yourself that maybe playing senior with Mayo was a real distinct possibility, and I suppose maybe winning All Ireland was a distinct possibility? Was that later kind of in your career, or whenabouts do you think?
No, I don't see. I don't think either. Like, I was playing Mayo underage at the time. See, I went into the Mayo senior team as a 13-year-old, so 13 and a half. And I had been on the Mayo under 14 and 16 team at the time. We just had finished the under 14 campaign. my birthday falls in December, so I wouldn't have been eligible for 14 the next year. So I was in with the Mayo under 16, but I would have gone in after the end of first year in school in with the Mayo team. But I don't think I ever had dreamed of I was going to go in with the Mayo team, because it all happened very fast.
Yeah.
That I was playing underage with Mayo, and next thing I was in Mayo senior team, and then winning an All Ireland again. That probably happened faster than I expected. Like, as I said, I went in with the Mayo senior team. I think it was 95, 96. We were in All Ireland semi-final and we lost. But you know, all I remember is for the week that week I played an under 16 final on a Saturday, played an All Ireland senior semi-final the next day, and played a minor final the following Saturday and lost them all. But I still, it wasn't to play in an All Ireland or Mayo. I actually think it was to play in Croke Park, because we'd watched the Mayo lads being in Croke Park that kind of 96, 97. And I was like, oh, I'd love to play there. And then it happened very soon. You know, obviously we got to the All Ireland when I was in fifth year in school. So, you know, I was only 16 and a half, 17 at the time. So, yeah, I think the All Ireland happened and we won it without realizing that, you know, God, this is what we dreamed of. But I always remember I wanted to play in Croke Park. And I suppose playing with the senior team probably came way before I probably expected. So I hadn't really had dreamt about that either, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because ladies football wasn't huge and you didn't really see it on television, I'd always just been watching the Mayo lads, and maybe I didn't even know if there was a Mayo senior team at the time. I'd just been played under 14 for Mayo. So, and but even at that stage, we'd won an All Ireland under 14 with Mayo. So, I just think probably, like, I was just playing so much at that age group, you know, I didn't know whether I was coming or going, to be honest, because I would have been playing 14, 16 minor, senior, with Mayo and club, and then I was on our 4 teams in school. And when I went to school, we won 2 All Irelands when I was in first year. So, like, it just all happened very quick, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'd say at the kind of between the age of probably 12 and 14, I was in a number of All Irelands, whether it was school, club, community games, you know, whatever it might be, Fela. It was all happening, and I probably didn't even know what was happening. I was just going from game to game.
That's incredible. That's amazing. Like, and we say, looking back, you know, right? Because I love chatting to athletes. And, you know, I love asking them kind of what we say. Do they have any memorabilia kept? So maybe a jersey or their medals, right? But looking back in your career, is that stuff really important, or is it relationships and friendships you built along the way that, you know, it's great to have the medal, I'm fantastic, to have the jersey frame, whatever it may be, but is it those relationships formed? Does that mean more than the tin?
Yeah, 100%. Medal. The only medals I know, I've few items in the museum in Grove Park. After that, I've no idea, or I don't have anything framed or anything like that. I'm not like, you know, everything is in my dad's house. I don't have anything in my own house. So yeah, I wasn't ever one for that. It was and I think that probably came a little bit from club, because we were so successful. We were just winning year after year from a county point of view in club and Connacht as well. And obviously we won a number of All Ireland. So I just think we were just so used to winning. It was just one year was rolling into the other. So, and, you know, I did on reflection look back and go, probably didn't appreciate, you know, what we'd won. And, you know, towards the end of my career, it was very much, we need to celebrate the wins more, because there'll be times we won't be winning anything. Yeah, but in terms of all of that, 100% the friendships, you know, you met along the way. And it's not just with your teammates that you played with, it's opposition teammates, it's, you know, coaches, it's physios, it's, you know, stats people, it's you know, it's all your backroom team. It's not, I just don't look back and have relationships with just players that I've played with. It's actually everything. It's a wider scale. And for me, I'm lucky enough, it's on a worldwide scale. It's not just, you know, people from Ireland, it's people from all around the world. So yeah, you know, you just have massive connections. And from that, and it's people that you mightn't even have played with, or, you know, that coached you or was involved with you. Then you meet someone that they know, or you're invited to something on the back of something, that you end up having relationships with other people. So the circle becomes so wide. But yeah, 100%, like all my friends, all my best friends are from sport. And, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, especially like to be playing such high level with such high level teams so young and playing with so many. I suppose it's a testament to yourself. And just with, I suppose, just a little bit about myself, you know, leading into the question. So I'm currently with the Cork City Ladies as their sports psychology consultant, right? And we've got a really, really young squad. So what I'm hoping to do now is be able to clip this up and send them what you say, hopefully, that can kind of guide them. But in terms of your preparation for games or setting standards, how did you go about doing that in your career? Was that something that came, was naturally, or was it something that maybe developed later in your career?
No, I think it came naturally. Yeah, I'm probably to the other, I'm probably to the real extreme.
Okay.
Yeah, not that I'm an extremist, but I was like, I don't know, I done an interview lately and someone asked me about training. Like, as I said, I've probably trained thousands of times between all the sports, and I literally could probably count on my two hands the amount of trainings that I've missed.
Oh
So I
wow.
was one of these people that trained all the time. Like,
Mm,
you'd have to, like, the only times I didn't train was when I broke my leg and I tore my ACL.
yeah.
Every other time I trained. So it was something major to stop me. And same with playing, like, throughout my Mayo career, there was one league I missed, and that was because I tore my ACL, and I didn't miss any championship game ever for Mayo. So like, and the same in AFL, I didn't miss a game when I was there, even though, I had injuries and stuff. I broke a lot of bones over there, but so I'd
Yeah.
be very resilient in that time. I was playing with broken noses, surgery noses, broken thumbs, whatever, loads of different things. So yeah, and the same with training. I did never felt fully prepared if I wasn't training all the time. And
Yeah.
I was even at the stage when I was in my late 30s, I still had to be training at the same level, doing exactly the same thing as someone that was in their mid-20s. So I
Okay.
couldn't have this. And in Australia, to be very much about your load and what you do. And they were
Yeah.
just, in the end, they just gave up, because I was like, I'm able to do it. So why should I do less than someone, that's 15 years younger than you?
Yeah.
So once I had that done, that was, to me, was a huge thing. I could always go in on match day knowing I was fully ready. But if I hadn't trained, which rarely happened, then I would feel really edgy and not confident going into a game. So that was I think that's what stood me out from the rest, is that I was a consistent trainer from the point of view I always trained, but a
Yeah.
consistent trainer that I always competed. So a training session to me was the same as a match. There was no this half-hours training. You trained as hard as you are, you play in a match. And yeah, I can remember many, whether it's AFL or Gaelic football, many training sessions that, like, you go to blows with your marker because you'd be that competitive. You'd be losing a 15 on 15 inside, and
Yeah.
wherever we're playing for Mayo or for the Giants. Like, I was just so competitive, and I just hated when we trained, like, if training wasn't at a really high standard. So, and then from a point of view of preparation, yeah, I wouldn't say psycho, but I just had to have everything. I was very much, I had my own way of doing it, and
Yeah.
this is the way I do it, and no one ever steps in the way of doing it. I wouldn't say I was superstitious in any way, but it was just that I knew what every day looked like in the
Yeah.
lead up to a match, and I knew I had boxes to tick, and once I ticked them, I was fine. So, um, like, at the same time, it's not that I was like, oh, I needed to know everything about the opposition. It wasn't ever about the opposition. It was about me.
Okay.
Um, that I was prepared,
Yeah.
and but then it probably went to a level that I was prepared, but I needed to know that everyone else knew what they were doing from a
Okay.
tactical point of view. So that was probably where it was probably stepped over the mark at times. I knew I was marking so and so, and I knew
Yeah.
what I was doing, and I was prepared, but I also knew what our corner forwards were doing, and what our midfielders doing, and what our cornerbacks were doing, and what kickouts our goalie was doing, even though I wasn't involved in them. So that's where I think I got my coaching head from, and I needed to know that everyone else felt prepared, felt as prepared as I did, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And you actually beat me to the question. I was going to ask you, did things ever get physical in training? So you kind of
Oh,
highlighted
all
that.
the time, all the time. Yeah, we were fair, and again, you know, there's this thing within women's sport that it shouldn't, because why are you getting so aggressive? So, and
Mm,
I think it's changed, which is a good thing, but it was always kind of like, oh no, that doesn't happen. But it happened all the time. And you know what? It happened with those closest to me as well.
yeah.
It was normally someone from my own club, because again, our club, we took everything so serious, and
Yeah.
we trained so hard and prepared so meticulous all the time. It was normally with someone that I was the closest on the team. It wasn't just someone that, I didn't know that well. It was normally us pushing each other, because we weren't, happy or satisfied. Same in Australia. There was loads of times. And do you know what? As a player, I love to see that, even if I'm involved or not involved in it, because it shows the amount of care and passion that people have for this thing. And once you can walk off and it doesn't cause issues, further down the line, which it rarely did, then you were fine.
That's massive. I'd love to jump to Australia now, if you don't mind. So, like, obviously, looking back at Mayo, right, massively successful. And then I suppose, how did the Australia move come about?
Yeah, so it was random. I was in Shanghai in China just for the week with the GA as an ambassador for the Asian Games. So they have a weekend of games where loads of football teams from all over Asia come and play a kind of 7-a-side tournament. So I'd been out there a few years, but this year was in Shanghai. And when I was out there, I met a guy from Cavan who had been living in Australia. He was invited to the games as well. And he had been working in the AFL space. And yeah, he'd been working with the Giants, the team I went to, their men's team. He'd been their defense coach at the time. And he just said, oh, the AFL women's team is starting up. And I didn't even know about it. He said, yeah, the competition's starting up. This was October, and the competition was starting that January.
Yeah.
They had already started pre-season. And he said, did you hear about it? And I said, no, I had no idea. And he said, that was fine. He said, oh, would you ever play? And I said, not a chance. When I met him, I think I was 34 at the time.
Yeah.
And that was conversation that was October, and that April he contacted me, and the Giants women had just finished their first season and they came last, and they sacked their coach, and they got a new head coach in, and he ended up being assistant coach with the men's team that they got in. And this guy, Nick, worked with them, and he said, would you not bring over one of the Irish, and again, it was more of a cultural thing, to a professionalism thing, to, someone that's a bit older and guide the players, because they had a very young group. And Nick said, I have someone. And yeah, he kind of showed him a few clips of me, and there was an email exchange between the three of us and introducing us. And then the coach at the time, Al, said, can I ring you? And I said, no problem. And he rang, and then he said, have you any interest? And I was like, God, no, like this was April, May at this stage. He said, oh, my son is in London and he's hoping to get over for a game in July, August. I think he came over in August to watch us play.
Yeah.
I picked him up from the airport here in Knock and Mayo. Someone picked him up for me. He came to watch the match. I met him the next day in Castlebar. We went for a kick and I dropped him back to the airport, and he filmed a little bit of the kicking, and he reported back to his dad. And yeah, his dad, who was the head coach, rang me the next morning, Irish time, and he just said, we'd love you to come over for a trial. When would you be available? And I was like, well, I think at this stage we're probably a quarterfinal stage for Mayo.
Yeah.
And we got to the All Ireland that year, and I was like, I can't come over. I don't miss training. I can't come over. So we got to the final and we lost the final, and he was looking for me to go out at some stage, but when the final was over here, we're straight into club championship.
Yeah.
So we're in maybe a club group stages, I'd say. At that stage, we got to a county final. He was like, this was October time. The draft was happening the 25th of October, so I needed to be out before then. So eventually, after a Connacht semi-final for a club, we had a break of 2 weeks. And I said, this is the only a few days I can go out for now, because we've a Connacht final for a club coming up. So I flew out on a Monday, got out on Tuesday, and the draft was on the Wednesday. So I'd done a trial in the club on the Tuesday morning when I arrived out. I arrived out at 6 a.m, went to the club, done a trial for about 45 minutes. And then they said, we'd like to sign you. This guy that I met in Shanghai was at the club, so he helped me negotiate all the contract stuff. And the next day the draft was on, signed, flew home that Saturday. So arrived out on Tuesday, flew home on Saturday, got into Dublin Sunday morning, down for club training Sunday afternoon. And then we had a club Connacht final the following week. That was a draw, a replay. Anyhow, we ended up getting to the Club All Ireland that year and won it on the 5th of December on a Sunday. And I flew to Australia then on the Tuesday and started training on the Thursday.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a
whirlwind.
So yeah, that was a whirlwind. And probably the only time I actually sat and thought about it was when I was sitting on the Tuesday evening in Dublin Airport waiting to catch the flight, and then for the whole flight, which I was severely hungover because I had 2 days of celebrating with the club. and I was wondering what the fuck was I doing. And yeah, for the whole flight on the way out, I had the highest level of anxiety I ever had in my life. But yeah, when I arrived on Thursday morning, got there. I was lucky my brother was in Australia at the time, so he picked me up, and then I was in his house for a couple of hours, and someone came to pick me up for training. Yeah, and the rest was really history after that. Stayed in for 6 seasons.
That's amazing. 'Cause I was going to ask you
Yeah.
about that, maybe either getting ready for the airport or before you got in the plane. This was that inner dialogue. So you mentioned you were anxious. Like, obviously, know your brother was over there, but like you're leaving essentially everything you know to go completely into the unknown, which is incredibly brave.
Yeah, it was awful to be honest. Because like I had to think and look, like I hadn't been in a new team, like properly within a new team where I knew no one since I was probably, I'd say 13,
Oh, wow.
12 or 13.
Okay.
So that was awful. And I'd been a long time in teams, like I'd been in a Mayo team where people were coming all the time, but I was very well established, same in club. So that was awful. And I didn't know anyone. Like, at least if you're in a new team, when I went to soccer or Gaelic or rugby, I always knew 6, 7, 8 people. So there was never that new, where you're really new. So that terrified me. And then obviously there was other things I was worried about. The weather, the heat,
Yeah.
that terrified me because I was over in the middle of summer. First few trainings was like 38, 39, 40 degrees. So that nearly killed me. And then it was coming up to Christmas as well. So the homesickness around Christmas time. And then like not being wanted as well. Like while my coach wanted me there and a few of the team wanted me there was a lot of people that didn't want me there because they were wondering who the fuck is this one coming taking a spot on our team.
Yeah.
So there was that as well. So there was, I wouldn't say animosity, but there was certainly people doubting, was I good enough to be there?
Yeah.
So then, I spent the first probably 2 months trying to prove myself. But at the same time, I was being put under a good bit of pressure from our head coach because he wanted me out there in a leadership role. And I was like, oh my God, I can't say anything. I can't open my mouth in a meeting because I'm not respected here. And the only way I'm going to be respected is on field when I train hard and they see I can actually do something. So yeah, the first two-ish months until we had our first, as they call it, a practice game over there, until we had our first challenge game, and I played quite well in it.
Yeah.
From that minute, everything changed. Probably with me because I got a bit of confidence, but with the rest of the team, it was like, oh yeah, he was right to sign her. She's good. So yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was just a change. I just felt that was on a Saturday. I went into training on a Monday. It was like, yeah, everyone loved me or something. I don't know. It was just strange. So yeah, it was. I had a lot of inner turmoil on that flight. But I used to have that. It was mad. I used to have that regularly because when I'd come home then after the season, because I'd want to play club football here, I'd always have that inner turmoil. Oh, I don't want to leave Australia. I love my time here. But then when I get home and settle and I leave again, I had that for a while. It was torture. I hated it because you had too much. Like, I'm not one to have too much thinking time, and when you're on a flight for 24 hours, you've too much. So
And so, like, it would be fair to say, so right, in that first 2 month period, right, you had so many reasons to leave and come back home, but was there was like obviously a mental toughness and a grit that you kind of stuck it out and built your confidence. Where, I suppose, where did that come from? Is that something that's been instilled in you since a very, very young age? Is that something that comes with age and experience? And what would it be in your case, do you think?
no, I have that a long time. I'd be very stubborn. But people tell me I'm stubborn, but I think I'm determined. No, but I am. I have a real stubbornness. Like if someone tells me I can't do something, or if a challenge put in front of me, I'll have to do it. No matter what it takes, I'll have to do it. So I was never going to leave and come home. I was never going to fail. I was always going to go out and be good. Like, I wasn't going to go out and just, say I played a few games. I was going to go out and try and be the best. That was my thing. Like, it wasn't like I was just going to be average. I couldn't be average. I have to be very good. And I have to succeed. And whatever, if it was, I played as a key forward. I need to be the best key forward, first of all, in the club. And then I need to be the best key forward in the competition. I think it came from years of different probably stuff. off field. As I said, I lost my mother when I was quite young, so I think that probably built up a huge resilience that I probably didn't know before she died, and because she was sick for quite a while after she died. I lost one of my best friends when I was quite young in a car accident as well. I think that probably added on another level of resilience and toughness. And I come from a family of 8. I think that probably growing up, we never got anything easy. I think you just had to fight for everything, whether that was flipping the dinner on the table or whatever it might be. So I think it just numerous different things. We never had anything easy growing up, and it's not like that I had a really tough life or anything, but just life, you just fought for everything, and we weren't handed anything easy. From a financial point of view, my mom was a housewife, my dad was a farmer, so we didn't have anything easy. So I think that probably added to it. And I just was really determined all the way through. I was just really competitive. Like, I'm still really competitive, which in some ways it's fine. Like, I'm ultra competitive, but like I think that, again, it came from school. Like, our principal had us always competing. We always had school leagues, whether it was handball or racquetball, stupid things like chess and drafts, but I had to win at all of them. I had to be the best at all of them. So I just think I was just very, very determined. And and then my first All-Ireland that we got to when I was 17, I broke my collarbone the week before. That year was pretty shit because I lost my mother 10 months before that. So I just think all these life events probably makes you more and more resilient and more determined. And Anthony, I put my hand at it. I just want to be really good at it. So, and I realized that if you want to be good at anything, you just have to work really hard. I think that was probably it. I love a challenge. Like, I love when someone throws a challenge at me, because I really like it. And I suppose I found AFL was a huge challenge. And the only way I got better at AFL was just, I was psychopath around the amount of times I trained. And like, they laugh at me now in the club, but at the time they just thought, well, they actually were pulling me off as they call it, the track, pulling me off the pitch, because I was like overtraining. But like, I knew the only way I could get better was just training and practicing, because that's all I knew.
Yeah. Like what screams there to me, the elite level mindset, that just screams from the conversation we're having. And do you know, we'll say when your season finished now in Oz, so you kind of came home, you were saying, how, like, was that difficult? So I know you already mentioned that, look, you loved your life, but you kind of got settled, and it was kind of hard to go back for a couple of times, right? But like, I suppose, how did you prepare yourself when you came home for Australia, when you knew you were kind of going back? Like, I suppose, did you have a routine? Did you have a performance routine of what you did? Like, because obviously now you go away for a number of months, friends and family, they're all going to want to see you. They're all going to want to spend time with you. But at the same time, you still, have to work, or you still have to spend time with family and friends. But at the same time, you still have to get ready to get back in tip-top shape to head back to Oz for the next season.
Yeah, no, I just like, again, I'll come back, and again, guilt was a lot. I don't know, I'm motivated a little bit by guilt, but I'd always come back because I'd never want to leave my club, not me being playing. The last year I didn't, because I couldn't come back because our season times changed, so it wasn't possible. And there was another year I broke my leg over there, and I did eventually come back and play a bit of the club season, but obviously because I broke my leg, I couldn't. No, I'm very disciplined. So we would be given a running program and a gym program. So we used to gym 4 times a week, run 4 times a week. So like, I'd go to club training and train, and then I might do my running program after training, or do my gym after training. So I was training double on the double, really, because I'd be training 3 times a week with my club, with them doing all the sessions. So again, I'd never not do a session that I was assigned to from Australia, because again, I'd feel I'd be letting someone down. I feel that if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be in the best condition when I went back. Like, you could find me out here down I live close enough to a soccer pitch. I'd be down there running in the dark at 10:30 at night, like, just to make sure I've got my session done. I could be working in Dublin all day, but when I get home, I'd never miss a session. I wouldn't be the type to, it's all right, I've done 3 out of the 4. Guilt would always get to me that I have to go and do the session, whether it be gym or running. So I'd always find ways to do it. As I said, it could be after a club session, it could be whenever. But like, if I was assigned 7 sessions a week, I always done 7 sessions, and then on top of that, I'd train my club as well.
That's amazing. That's incredible. And before we kind of shift now into, say, the new career media and this public speaking and stuff, right? What would you say are maybe the 2 or 3 key components to be a high performer?
Consistency in your training. I think you have to be consistent in how you train. So that's making sure you train all the time, but also consistency in performance and training. So you can't have like you perform well 1 week of training or 1 day of training, the next day, oh, you haven't. Just been very consistent in every aspect of your training. I think that's hugely important. And I think that's where you miss you can miss a beat if you don't do that, because, and I know injuries can prevent you. I understand that I've been very lucky. I've never had soft tissue injuries, so it can prevent you. But if you're injured, there's still some, and that only in 2019 when I broke my leg, I realized that when you're injured, you can come back fitter and stronger and even better than you are by being in rehab and by being in the gym and doing what you're told. So there's no excuse. If you're injured, you can still be working as hard, if not harder, than the person that's out in the pitch. So yeah, consistent in performance. I think you have to be mentally strong, because unfortunately in elite level sport there'll be setbacks no matter what it is, and that's in team selection, whether it's in injury, whether it's just a coach that maybe doesn't like you, whatever it might be. Elite sport never runs smoothly. Rarely for people does it run smoothly. So there will be always setbacks, but it's how you react to the setbacks. I was always in the mindset that, okay, this setback can be seen as a challenge. Oh, look at another challenge has been thrown at me. But I actually always seen them challenges as opportunities in some way to get stronger, fitter, to get better footy, IQ, whatever it might be. That I'd see that, that challenge. Okay, he's put a challenge to me now. I'll make sure that I'll better and I'll prove them wrong. So I think having that really like strong mindset in terms of like self-belief and self-confidence in your ability. Like while people might see it, and there's a fine line between arrogance and self-confidence, but you have to have a slight bit, and I hate the word arrogance, by the way. If someone called me arrogant, I'd hate it. But you have to have huge self-belief in your ability. If you're putting in the work and you're putting in the training and you're doing everything you're being told, you have to go out and have that self-belief that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. And sometimes, you have to fake till you make it, but you go out and try and exude that self-confidence that you have in yourself. You might be in some ways, oh, I'm not sure. But once you step across the white line, that you are oozing in self-belief that you can do it. So they're probably the 3 biggest areas. But for me, the biggest one to get to elite level of performance is just consistency in everything you do. In your life in general, in training, in life. Never get too high, never get too low. As in, someone can tell you you're great, you've done this and all that. Never take too much of that. And never, if something goes wrong, never get too low. Try and stay consistent in everything you do, I think, is the biggest message that I would say anyways.
Yeah, I know you picked up on something there now as well, the self-belief piece. Like I would have been teaching, not happy in the career, so decided to move away from it. Would have had massive interest in sport, been around intercounty football, so I've been influenced by people I would have worked with. So I kind of started up this business, the Fusion Performance, about 2-3 years or whatever it was. Now it's only kind of really starting to roll properly now, but I can remember the imposter syndrome and lack of belief I had in the first even 12 months of this venture, where you're like, it won't work, just didn't back myself. And it's mad to see the commonalities between, in my example, is business, but obviously elite level sport. There's so many commonalities.
There's huge, and it's only last week I actually done something in Donegal, and it was for the local enterprise office, and it was around business, but it was business and sport leadership. So myself, Bernard Jackman, and Jim McGuinness were talking about it. But like, even their stories alone, everything was associated. Every analogy they gave in sport was associated with business. Every analogy. There wasn't one that wasn't. Yeah,
it's incredible. And obviously now, new career, we can see you on RTE on the Sunday game, analysing our weekly dose of Gaelic football. How are you finding that?
Yeah, again, I'm really enjoying it. Again, it probably took time, like to feel comfortable within the position. There's a lot of obviously work behind the scenes that people don't see in terms of research, watching matches, and all that. But again, I'm very lucky. Again, since I've went into the role, I've been really well respected by the people within the role. So the other pundits, you know, the presenters and that. So, you know, and that's probably came from my career. So yeah, I love it. It's, you know, it's another aspect of sport when you leave sport, and that kind of really competitive side has gone out. Coaching and punditry are probably the two areas that you still feel really part of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I love it. But again, I think it's again from my time from that coach when I was 16 or 17. I love the intricacies of the game, and you know, looking at, you know, how to beat the blanket defense, or you know, watching like the really good players like the David Cliffords and that, just seeing how he moves and what makes him so great. And yeah, so I love all that tactical side of it, and then obviously just to get to go and watch the matches and give your opinion on it is massive. So yeah, it's really enjoyable. But as I said, there's a lot of work kind of in the background in terms of, you know, I could watch, you know, I'm on this Sunday night now for the nighttime show, you know, so I'll probably watch 8 or 9 matches, you know, between Saturday and Sunday, you know, that you'd have to sit. So, and, you know, listen to a different amount of podcasts, read a lot of things. So, you know, there's a lot of work in it, but I don't really find it work, because I find it really enjoyable.
That's brilliant, and obviously adds to your coaching. When I obviously knew we were going to have a chat, there was one specific question I wrote down, right, and it's obviously based on something in England. So obviously Joey Barton has come out in the media and was kind of slagging off female pundits. Have you seen any of that in your experience, where people are commenting, or what were your own initial reactions when you read that in the paper or online or whenever you saw it?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, sorry, I just said I don't know what happened, but yeah, no. So in terms of people like that, I said I don't know the full credentials of the girls that were, you know, talking on the Match of the Day or BBC, but you know, it's stuff that you don't need. I think anyone that knows the game and researches the game and has played the game is qualified enough to talk about the game. So yeah, I've been lucky enough in my time since I've been with the Sunday game. There's been very little of that. As I said, you'll always have 1 or 2 people that don't agree with your opinions, but again, it's only your opinion. So
yeah, that's brilliant. And look, we've come to the end now. I just have 5 quick fire questions for you,
it's all right.
and then we're done. So, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
Oh God, what's the best advice I've ever been given? It's probably hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. I suppose that's probably the best advice. Hard work will beat anything. You can be as talented as you want, but if you don't work hard enough, you know, that talent is only going to get you certain places.
That's brilliant. Next question. So, if you had to go back to your younger self, say a particular part in your career, what advice would you give yourself at that time?
Probably not to be so hard on myself. Probably enjoy it more. Yeah, and probably celebrate. Yeah, probably not let every year roll into another. Probably celebrate the wins, whatever it might be. They might be, you know, winning a trophy or winning a county final or whatever, or, you know, celebrate the really good performances. I think that's vitally important. I think at times you roll from one year to the next, and you're very focused, and you forget to, you know, you do all this hard work, you know, day in, day out, to celebrate this, to have success. So when you have success, that you really need to celebrate it and kind of sit back and reflect on what you've achieved.
It's brilliant. Question number 3. So, how would you say sport has shaped you as a person?
Oh, massively. I think I wouldn't be the person I am only for sport. You know, it's given me so much. As I said, friends, everything is like when I was, you know, young, teenage years, adult years, even just going down to the football pitch when I'm having a bad day, it feels like it gives me massive freedom. So yeah, no, it's massively shaped me as a person. I think all the traits that I have from sport that are, you know, now bring through to work and life. Yeah, I just encourage any young people that the qualities and traits that you get from sport, you don't find them in school, you don't find them in college, you don't find them, you know, just in general day life. Sport gives you traits that, you know, builds your life, it builds you for the rest of your life. So yeah, it has really shaped me as a person. So it's really important.
That's brilliant. And this question before 2 to go. What's your favorite sporting memory?
Oh God, it's probably my last Club All Ireland, either my first or last Club All Ireland. So they were probably, what were they, 15 years apart. I was lucky enough to be captain for both of them. Our first one was in 2002, our last one was in 2017, probably 2017, as I said, because I was going to Australia 2 days later, but also or a guy that coached me for years within the club scene, probably since I was started club football, girls football as a 12-year-old, right through to our last All Ireland in 2017. Died the following year. So yeah, that memory is kind of very, very special because, you know, he was Mr. Carnacon and you know, was the one that formed the club and the one that brought it to wherever we got to, you know, in our time there. So yeah, that probably either or the All Irelands would be probably my favorite.
Brilliant. And this might be a similar answer, the same answer, but if you had to go back and play one match and redo it, whether it be a win or a loss or something to change, what would it be?
Oh, yeah, be definitely a loss. You always remember your losses, you don't remember the wins. Um, I'd probably be the 2001 All Ireland. We lost by a point to Laois. Last kick of the game, they got a free kick from a short kick out. So our goalkeeper kicked the ball short to me,
Yeah,
who was I picked up the ball inside the 21, and the referee at the time, Marty Duffy, which we didn't know the rule at the time, gave a free in. So it was a 21-yard free and that was with 40 seconds to go. I think she kicked the ball over the bar with about 10 seconds to go, and we lost the All Ireland. So,
yeah,
yeah, that one will always sting. We were going for 3 in a row at the time. So yeah, that was tough. We could have had 5 in a row only for that. So yeah, definitely the 2001 All Ireland or 2001 All Ireland. Yeah,
that's brilliant. And look, before we've come to the end, I just want to say thanks so much for your time. If for any athlete listening to this, they're going to pick up so much. I really want to thank you for your time. The insights
no
you've
problem
shared
at
has been
all.
absolutely fantastic. So thanks so much.
No bother at all, Dennis. No problem.